Been loaded at... Oh! Hello? Am I talking too loud? Oh, I might not get away with this film. Hey, so, you know the drill I think by now. 2 films today I'm going to be reviewing, and I'm genuinely really excited to talk about these because it was so much fun to film with them. So I've got 2 Redscale films for you, and I've decided to do 2 polar opposites today. I'm going to grab a really sort of small one-man band project to give us this developed film by this really talented chap called Toby. I'll get on to that in a little bit more. That's called RedEye Redscale. Loved it. Against a more bigger sort of company, if you like, that produces loads of films, Lomography, the Lomography Redscale XR extender. So, just so much fun this time. So, like normal, I'll start off with a little bit of history and then we'll crack on to the rest. Let's have a look. Toby was kind enough to respond to my message for a start, which is really good, and I asked him for a bit of history. I just wanted to know a little bit more about him, a little bit more about why this film came about, and I love the fact that this email that I got back from him, it started off with the line, "I remember when the only choice in photography was film photography." Yes, that is golden. Love it. So that got me straight away, that hooked me. So what I found interesting about Toby's story was he obviously explained that he's a commercial photographer, but for all his personal projects he uses film. He just likes the sort of aesthetic feeling to film, and maybe that comes back to that first line that Toby said about you know, he remembers the days when that was the only choice you had, and yeah, then that's it. So you've obviously got straight away here a really experienced pro photographer who wants to give something back to the film community. The film community is a wonderful community, I've found, and when you need help, when you need assistance, when you need support, blah 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 blah, it's there. I feel he loves the hands-on approach to film photography, so developing his own film and just experimenting. And he was explaining that about 6-7 years ago he started doing his own Redscale, and now to do that technically for someone like me who's really sort of basic when it comes to the real mechanics and the physics of film photography would be really difficult, and I'd like to think I'd give it a go, but for me I'm looking for experimental films that take the time it takes to do that out, but that gives me the fun for it. And he said that's the market he went for. He felt that he had people out there, probably just like me, who wanted to do that, but at the same time probably just couldn't get their hands dirty enough or didn't have that experience to physically do it. He nailed that, because that is absolutely bang on. And he also said one really interesting tip, which I'm really happy about, and I'm going to come on to in a second because I messed this up massively. But anyway, he was explaining that the first ever experiment he did with his own Redscale film to give out, he just didn't overexpose enough, and he was just really muddy, averagey sort of shots. So he did it again and cranked up that overexposure way above 2 stops and got some ace results. And that just shows if the creator is also experimenting. I think that's the point. You've got to push your boundaries with these types of films, and it gives you some cracking results. I love that. I think that's probably the gambler inside me. I just love the process of taking photos anyway like this, but the thought that you know you're going to change the settings and you're not quite sure what colour you're going to get, but you know you've sort of got a vision in your head, all that stuff I love, and that's why I'm doing this video. So anyway, I thought that was interesting just to throw in there. Let's get on to Lomography this time. Obviously these are a bigger company, and Hannah from Lomography was really kind enough to give me a little bit of details, a bit of background why this film came about and when it did, and sent me a blog from the time it came out, which I thought was really interesting. Link below if you want to see it. And yeah, similar sort of style to what Toby was saying. They obviously found their film community experimenting this way, and they found sort of chit-chatter about that and people showing their examples, and they felt that again they could offer something to help ease the sort of time that it would take to do that. And about 11 years ago they released this line of Redscale films, 35mm and 120, and it was an extender, so you change the ISO and it would give you the difference in colours. And when I think of Lomography as a company, you think of experimental, you think of fun, all that type of sort of words that you would explain, and ultimately, the film community asked for it, Lomography delivered, and I think that's just a nice little story again. Colours and contrasts. Quick disclaimer before we go into this. I made myself a little bit of a promise with this YouTube channel, and that was I could either see my life chaos as excuses, not to put things out that I love, like films, or I could see it as a challenge to overcome certain obstacles, shall we say. Now at the moment, you'll know that I've got a nice little 6-week-old baby, our second girl, Daisy, to compliment Clementine. So it's been me mad the last few weeks. At the moment, Daisy will sleep in the day as long as she's cuddling a nice warm daddy or mummy. And once I put her down, well, anyone that's got kids out there will understand, she screams bloody murder. Don't you, Daisy? So I figured, let's see if I can get it done with Daisy on me, and that's got to be some fun, hasn't it? So here we go. Let's start with the RedEye Redscale. Now, quick disclaimer on this whole Redscale film. If you've never heard of Redscale at all and what that means around film photography, then it might be worth giving this a bit of a pause, fly off and Google it and find out. But really short, it is this cool alternative way to load your film. You spool it backward and it basically just creates things to the colours of the film. So, I'm not going to pretend that I know loads of technical stuff about it because, as I explained, why Toby built his film, it's for people like me who want to be technical, maybe not at the time, blah, 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 but want to produce those results for a bit of fun. Now, second disclaimer, Toby's film, the RedEye, is expected to be loaded at 200 ISO, and the different colours will come out. Daisy's awake now, so I reckon I might not get this done in the end. Anyway, what I was saying was, with the RedEye, you load it at the film speed of 200 and you overexpose it. And as you're more overexposed, the colours come out more red and orange. Less exposed, it's more greeny. Now what I did, and bear in mind this is meant to be experimented, so bear with me, but what I did is I just moved the film speed because, and I'll come on to this later, that's what you do with the Lamography one. So I basically shot these at anything from ISO 25 through to 800. And I got some awesome results. I stuck the Nikon F301 in auto priority mode, aperture priority mode, like I always do. Love to play with that. And one sec. Completely messed up that theory of how you're meant to use this film, but I got these results and I loved them. Honestly, love the difference in colours that you get, but how it comes out as workable, as usable. Like, it's absolutely fantastic. And the colours that you get from this, oh, they're that good. They are that good. Aren't they, Daisy? What do you think, yeah? They're that good, I promise you. So, these are the results I got. Okay, Lomography Redscale. So, I'm going to B-roll a few photos for you and show you because, quick disclaimer, I did one roll on this little beauty, card probably just here somewhere to the other video, where I took a point and shoot and stuck this in on a really bright day in Halifax and tried to get some photos of that sort of like real dark shadows and super strong light, which I love to do. But anyway, so with this one I feel a bit bad showing these photos as an example because obviously I didn't set the ISO, it was just all automatic. So here is those. So quick disclaimer on those, obviously always set its own ISO, but I always exposed for the highlights. Again, if you don't know what that means, just check that out on Google, but basically it means that you are super underexposing your image, particularly for the shadows, so that you get those really dark shadows, like as if this is just black, with one exception from that film of a guy with a piano, which I thought was quite cool. So there you go, hope you enjoyed that. Now back to where I actually put it in a Nikon F301. The colours are just fantastic again, really. Really sort of good clarity, really moody. Love the moodiness of this film. I used it over winter, so it's quite dark in the days. I very struggled actually to get anyone with some clear light to demonstrate the difference, so I end up getting a lot of those what I call cyan colours, this greeny yellow sort of mix. Ultimately, I set the ISO at 25 and then got these types of shot, which is why they look so moody. And got these colours, which I think is fantastic, and then I moved it up to all the way up to 800 just for a bit of fun, and got sort of, again, still the cyany ones. And I don't know whether this is because I don't know whether the reason there's still the yellows and greens is probably because even though I set the ISOs at sort of 100, or 50 or even 25, it's dark, so I had to really crank up do the lowest aperture for a start, to let as much light in as possible, and also really test out the shutter speed. And some of them I even had to say to Clemmy and Vicky just to stop, because I knew the shutter speed was too slow. And that's why a lot of these are blurry, because I was really pushing the boundaries. It didn't really work out, but it's a good example for the colours. So this one, which I think is really interesting, through the window to get that light one for you, the one that's the most colour. I just love it. I love the colours. I love both Redscale films, obviously, but the Lomography one as well is just fantastic for that flexibility, I guess. And I would say, comparing the two, it's more moody. So I definitely think I got that sort of, that moody look to it. And it might be more the light, whereas that I used, because obviously if you look at the one from my auto, point and shoot, well, obviously those are really bright orange reds and amazing. But overall, both colours are just fantastic experiments, and I absolutely love both. The RedEye for me, just the beautifulness of that lovely reddy orange that floats across that image is just wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and love the way it came out, really. So yeah, colours and contrasts. So let's move on. Daisy, is that enough? Have you had enough, Daisy? Yeah. Grain and versatility. Right then, clearly in a different outfit, beard maybe a little bit longer. So you're right, I'm going to give you the best tip I ever got from my granddad. If you don't succeed, try and try again. That is honestly a tip I got, because this video is now, I think, up to day 5, and I'm doing it section by section. So here we go, grain and versatility. Well, let's start off with the Redscale, shall we? As you know, most of my images are my cats, but anyway, this is a really great example because this is direct, bright sunlight coming through my conservatory, and it's hidden under a table, so you can contrast that against a nice dark, deep shadow, and what you get is this. So this was one of the ones I stuck on a lower ISO, but I had to really overexpose off the top of my head. I believe I didn't do this in aperture priority mode. I went to manual because I couldn't get the right settings, and I underexposed because it was just so bright and dark. Anyway, this is the point I make. Look at the grain as you go across it, because you've got real highlights into that real shadows, and it just comes across, I think, really pleasing. Like, it's not crazily different, it doesn't look really grainy in one area, or the textures don't change to the shadows. I think this is a really lovely consistent image, which I think is fantastic, and it shows the versatility of it as well, because you can take a shot like this and then just go outside in a whole bright sunlight, or go inside with no light at all, and get consistently like workable results, which, again, I don't know whether, because this is my first foray into, real small developed films, maybe I'm being really naive here, and hopefully the community can tell me, but I know that Toby's obviously a professional photographer, really passionate about film, but I'm like really impressed. I find stuff like this fascinating. I think, the ability for someone to not only develop their own films and experiment and sort of in analog do all that stuff, but also to develop a film for people to use that's really produces really great results. Like, honestly, Toby, if you're watching this, you should be really proud. Not that my words offer any, I'm not an experienced photographer in this field, but I just think it's just a cracking job. What a brilliant job, and I just loved using this film, every second of it. I think really excited to see the results. I just wasn't disappointed. So for me, great. Love the grain, love the quality of that grain that you can see, and the versatility is there to be seen. I think that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So, moving on to Lomography. Right, Lomography. I believe this is something different. I think this come across like a lot moodier and a lot darker, like sort of, I can imagine using it around Halloween, that type of thing. And I can't tell you why that is, but I definitely, with the settings that I use that I've shown on screen, I've definitely find that this is just darker, and therefore the versatility is different than what it would be for the film I just mentioned in RedEye, because actually if you do it in these particular settings, what you're getting is that darker, moodier look that you might not necessarily want. For example, if you're wanting that bright and bubbly one, you need to go in direct sunlight or really quite overexposed. The grain again is really lovely. I think it's actually slightly more noticeable, a little bit more texture in this one, but again, all preferences really, and I love both types of films anyway, and this is building up to the same thing I do on every one of these films, which I hope you enjoy, which is try to use a feeling or a personality type or some sort of like emotional connection to these films. To give you an example, and it's building nicely at this because that's what I feel I'll give you at the end of it, what I feel like my mood would be if I were using these particular types of films. So again, Lomography, I just love using it, so much fun on both cameras, and Lomography, the light most definitely changes that shot entirely, as you can see from the two differences of where I've shot. I mean, you could argue that it's a different film, and that's what's great about these films. I just love the experimental sort of side of it. I think it's fantastic. So let's switch it up. I'll start with Lomography. So, handling, feel and summary. Well, I think I touched on the last one about the feel of it, but I believe that depending on the light and the camera that you're using, you can really push this film. So for instance, when I'm using that point and shoot Olympus on one of these bright, beautiful days, very much like we've got right now, it just gives you that beautiful reds and oranges, and it looks so, I don't know what the word is for it. I'm thinking, I don't know, so energized, so red. But if you switch it, and it's a dark, snowy, miserable day, and you've got to sort of you can't overexpose too much because you want to shoot subjects and keep the shutter speed high to keep them in focus, well then it gives you this Halloween-y style, I think, dark, and sort of the cyans come in it, and it looks like really abstract, and I don't know, it just creates this atmosphere that just totally like is in contrast to that bright bubbly day on the same film, which is fascinating and amazing. So for me, it's hard to pin a mood with this, but on those bright days, I'd definitely go with, it's just fun, experimentally sort of style mood that you've got, that silly stuff. But on those dark, moody days or the snowy days, it's definitely spooky, and that's the feeling I get. You know, that it gives you that atmosphere that when you look at it, oh my god, it's gone dark, hang on a sec. Oh my god. It went really dark outside. Today is a nightmare for lighting, and anyway, I'm going off one, you don't need to know about that. 1 second. So, yes, I'll go back to it. So going back to those dark days are, spooky, and the atmosphere, I think when you're looking at them and you look at the photo, and the reason I've not got a blackout, anyway, back to the film view. So, explain what it's like in the bright feeling. Well, the dark one with that moody day, that crazy, I don't know, like just spooky feeling to it, with those cyans and those dark colours. Well, I guess for me, when you look for those photos, and I feel like the moment I was actually in at that time, it makes you feel a little bit edgy, I think, a little bit like something's going to happen here. Something's, you expect this to be a shot in a horror movie whereby the next scene, some sort of like, Jason comes walking around the corner from you know what I mean. It's one of those where it makes you just like feel a bit on edge, uneasy, like that. That's the feeling this film gives me on those types of days. So for me, Halloween's coming up. Perfect film for that moody time if you want to get that cool feeling to it. So there you go. That's that one. Handle and feel overall. Love both films. I think that's pretty much apparent right now. It is, yeah. There we go. Right, moving on. RedEye. Well, the RedEye is different. Now, maybe it's because I completely bodged up the way you should use this film, and I changed the ISO in the camera to like 800, 25, 200, rather than overexpose. But ultimately, for me, didn't have that same spooky feeling to it, for instance. It was more beautiful. I felt like it was more, it made me nostalgic, is what I felt it. I feel like that's a really good word for it. Like the feeling of that film. I look at all the photos, the Brucey cats, the ones of Clemmy, etc., just the fun ones, the ones I'm trying to like, even the ones of the window where she's looking out and she's a silhouette, Clemmy that is, then it's that like lovely, warm, nostalgic feeling. Bruce, what are you doing? Come here. That's my cat, by the way. And that nostalgic feeling it gives you makes you fall in love with this film, and maybe that's why I'm banging on so much about it and so passionate about it, because I look for the photos and they're just, just experimentally type photos that I just enjoy doing, but I try to get some ones that convey the message. And my photography is my art form, it's my creative outlet. I feel like I have to make it, so there's always an element of I'm trying to achieve certain sort of results with my photos, regardless whether I'm using digital or film. And it's the same with this. So the picture of Clemmy looking out the window, I love to frame it so that she's a silhouette, and then you just get them colours and come burning in. And same with Bruce, I love the fact that you look at that and you feel like there's some atmosphere to the photo, and the shadows, you can just about get a little bit of a hint about the shadows, but the colour and the red and the orange gloss across it, and the consistency of it is wonderful, and that's the key to me. So for me, atmospheric, sort of nostalgic feeling to this film is brilliant, and you know what, just loved it. The overall hand and feel of it, I just buy it again, instantly buy it again. Just love using it, and that is it. There you go. Whew, I'm just going to lift the microphone up. I feel like I'm exhausted after building that for a week. I tell you what, it took a while, it was determined, the sun has even come out just to scupper my last little plans. But you know what, it's worth making that film, and I really hope you're not exhausted after watching it, because it probably felt like a roller coaster. But there you are, you've got 2 films, you've got 3 moods. You've got nostalgic for the RedEye, you've got spooky for the Lomo in dark conditions, and you've got silly and bright for the one in bright conditions. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I will be back again with loads more film reviews and all sorts actually coming up. I've got loads of ideas about, loads of stuff. So as the light goes, I'm going to fade off into the darkness. I shall see you all later. Toodaloo! Say hello. Hello.